What is up, Ravens flock? Huge shout out for your support for the 410 Sports Talk. Chance and Glenn are the best in the business. They're killing it right now. They love talking Raven talk. Make sure you go subscribe to their channel. Let's go Ravens. Big trust.
What is up? Welcome to another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I'm James Haskell, along with my faithful compadre, Glenn Martin, and we are excited, Glenn, to talk about our Baltimore Ravens getting ready for so much going into the tail end of the offseason, the meat of the offseason. But one of the things that we want to focus this video on today is the offensive line and its improvement, what we are excited about, what we're concerned about, and the like. But before we do, guys, go ahead and take a second, hit the subscribe button, leave your comments below regarding the video, give us a like, turn on your notifications. You know, we have rookie, camp, mini camp, training camp, all of the camps coming up. We have, the rest of off season and then the season coming up. So if you want to stay up to date with your Ravens stuff, hit the notifications button, like I said. But Glenn, a lot of changes in the off season when it comes to our offensive line.
Yep. Lots of different moving parts.
So I figure what we do is let's lay down who we perceive to be our starting offensive line and talk about how we're feeling about it. Because honestly, I think this is the most important news because everyone's all excited about the upgrades at wide receiver, Sammy and Bateman and Wallace and all these things. But to me, this is where it's at. I'm a trench guy. I think you win the game in the trenches. So start left to right. Who do you see as our offensive line unit?
Okay. All right. Left to right, we're going to have Ronnie Stanley returning from a major knee injury, or was it knee or ankle?
Ankle, yeah. Two surgeries.
Yeah, so returning from a major injury mid-season last year, so we'll see how that goes. But right now, Ronnie Stanley's set to return at left tackle, hopefully by week 1. We have one of the newer Ravens, Ben Cleveland, out of Georgia, switching from right to left guard to play for the Ravens. And then hopefully Bozeman is able to transition back to the center position that he used to play at Alabama, and he'll slide in at center. And then, of course, the new free agent acquisition, Kevin Zeitler, going to be coming in and playing some right guard and getting some veteran experience back to that position after Yanda left a couple years ago. And then another switching position, Alejandro Villanueva comes over from the Steelers, where he played left tackle his entire career and is trying out the right side of the offensive line. So a lot of only really two familiar faces as far as on the offensive line, but even that, one of them is switching to a new spot. So really only one position will remain the same, week 1 last year, week 1 this year, and that's Ronnie Stanley at left tackle.
Yeah, it's really going to be interesting, and I think that this is so important for us to talk about. One of the things I want to mention off the bat, while obviously there's a lot of position changes, I believe it's fair to say that we could have, if this ends up being our starting 5, the largest offensive line. We talked about that in our live, and I think at this point I have it memorized, and Stanley is 6'6", 320, and then Cleveland is 6'6", 335. Bozeman is 6'5".
No, Cleveland is 357. He's 20 pounds heavier than anyone else on the line.
357 pounds?
Yeah, he's 20 pounds heavier than anyone, and he's a rookie. He's 6'6", 357.
Oh, well, I don't know what I read. My goodness. And then Bozeman I think is in the 330s, and he's 6'5". Yep. The runt on the line, of course, at this point is Kevin Zeitler at 6'4", 314.
Yep.
And then over on the right side, we got the tower, Alejandro Villanueva, who's also, I think, 320, 330, but he's 6'9". Crazy. So definitely some maulers, some people movers, some guys that can get it done physically and aren't going to be imposed physically. No. Now, but we talked about the position changes, but let's start with, before we get into the position changes, health. Yeah, Ronnie is coming off the ankle, and we'll see how he does.
Yeah.
But are there any other than Ronnie? And we can spend some time there if you want. But are there any other folks on the line that you're concerned about? Zeitler seems to be sturdy.
Yeah.
Bozeman, Cleveland, we don't know. In college, he was sturdy, but I don't know much about Alejandro's injury history.
He hasn't missed a single game in his NFL career.
All right. Well, summary completed.
Yeah. Over.
So no real concerns there except for Ronnie, right? What is your concern level then? We'll focus on him. What is your concern level at this point for Ronnie Stanley?
Well, I mean, I can't, it's hard to sugarcoat this one, Jimmy, but it's a concern because the guy hasn't, correct me if I'm going to look it up now, but I don't think he's played a single full 16 game season in his entire career.
He didn't even play a full 16 games last year, did he? I mean, not last year, 2019.
No, he didn't. He played 14 of the 16.
And he was still an all-pro.
Yeah, he was the all-pro at left tackle and had maybe the greatest single season the left tackle's ever had in history. Now, you remember, only one of those games, I believe, was missed due to injury, and then the game he was red for the playoffs. So, he only played 14 of 16, but I think he only missed the one due to injury. But, in his rookie year, he played 12 of 16, and then in 2017, he played 15, 18, he played 15. And then we just mentioned 19. So it's not like he's missed, last year was the biggest miss of his career where he missed 10 of the 16 games. But, so it's a concern, Jimbo. I mean, this guy's, he's injured.
Not Tavon Young.
No, he's not that. He's not 48 games missed in 4 seasons. But nonetheless, it's now becoming a bit of a pattern here. Now, it's not like it's, injuries that, are because he's out of shape or because he's not taking care of his body. It's just bad luck. I mean, he's getting rolled up on. It's a lot of it's just unfortunate situations, but it still happens. So I'm hopeful that he can kind of fix this injury bug, because if he goes down, we're going to have to be relying again on it looks like Tyree Phillips and whoever else, if the Ravens can add another tackle. Maybe Andre Smith might finally be forced to play some minutes, but as little snaps as he's gotten, I can't imagine the confidence level is very high on him from the coaching staff. So yeah, right now, I mean, it's strange to say this because I think when everyone's healthy, he's our best offensive lineman.
Yeah.
But right now, as it stands, he might be the biggest question mark on the offensive line, despite all the moving parts across the line.
Yeah, that's a great point. The other thing I want to talk about really quick, though, because you mentioned it, is Tyree Phillips as the potential, depth guy at that position. But let's talk about a contingency plan real quick. So say Ronnie doesn't start the season. Do you see then Villanueva going back to his natural position at left tackle and Tyree going to right?
Absolutely.
Starting at right. Now, what if Ronnie goes down 6 games in? Do you still see that being the situation? Or do you think they keep Villanueva at right and then they plug in Tyree Phillips? In my estimation, I see the same thing happening. You throw Villanueva, who has the most experience, over at left, and then you just plug in Tyree at right. But what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, I think at best, Tyree Phillips could fill in for a game or two, but you're talking Villanueva is a 2-time Pro Bowler at left tackle. So I think you definitely ask him to go back over there. Yeah. And you hope that Phillips can hold up at right. But I'm not so sure that the Ravens aren't done adding to that room. I think getting another experienced right tackle would be a wise decision for them. And I was just looking up to see how much cap space they had left. And right now it looks like they're $11.1 million under the cap right now as it stands. They still have to sign their rookies, which I don't think any of them is signed as of today, although I have seen other rookies around the league inking some contracts. So hopefully they come soon. But there's still a little wiggle room there to bring in another tackle, and I'm hoping because I think we both kind of we're not ready to write Phillips off, but counting on him to be a right tackle, or if Ronnie's not ready, I think is a little bit of a stretch, and I'd rather see him be our swing guy and have another full year under his belt, ideally, before he starts to playing some quality snaps.
Yeah, that's a great point. Okay, so I feel like health-wise, though, we checked the box as far as the majority of our guys are pretty sturdy, and even though Ronnie's missed games, he's still relatively sturdy in comparison to some other guys. So let's move on and talk to my other concern here is the position changes. So like we said before, and you talked about this, you got Villanueva going from left to right. You got Ben Cleveland going from right to left guard. And then you got Bozeman going from left guard to center. Now, I want to throw something out at you before we get into questioning here. Do you think that there's any way that the Ravens could take Zeitler just because he's more of a vet and say, hey, switch over to left guard and we're going to keep Cleveland at his natural position at right because he is a rookie? Do you see what I'm saying? Do you
Yeah.
think that there's any possibility that they could that could be an option?
You know, I haven't thought about that. That's a really good point. I think that it's an option. I think ultimately they don't end up doing it, but only because, you know, it's the old theory. Do you weaken two positions by trying to strengthen one? I think, you know, we saw the success Bozeman had transitioning from center to left guard when he came out, and maybe that it's an easier transition when you're not 8-10 years into the league,
right? Just psychologically, right? Like,
right, yeah, you're not. I mean, yeah, you've played years, but you know, I don't know. He mentioned in his presser that he's played all up and down the line in practice. You know, hasn't done it in the games, but he did so in practice. So, and we don't really know what he was playing in high school. In high school, he probably was a tackle. You know, just judging by his size and how things usually go. Sure. He was probably a tackle. So he probably hasn't been playing right guard, you know, nearly as long as Zeitler. You know, Zeitler's been a right guard for, I think, 8 years now in the league, 8-9 years in the league, and then however many years in college. So it might be easier for him, but I think that's a good point. It's an interesting point that maybe if Cleveland can't transition, or whoever else, Powers, Bredesen, whoever, if they can't do it, they may go to Zeitler and say, hey, let's see if you can do it. Because if you can do it, then that would make the transition easier for Cleveland coming up from the college ranks to the pros. Yeah,
absolutely. It's something really interesting. Now I want to get into our concern level around these switches. So let's talk for a second about Villanueva from left to right, because I think something interesting happened, and you and I talked about this the other day. I think it happened to both of us. I was concerned. I think that you were really concerned. I was still also concerned about the idea of switching left to right, and where people think that it's easy. But just like a lot of guys that we've had come on the show say, it's like trying to, bat left-handed and then all of a sudden bat right-handed, or you're trying to write all your life with your right hand, then turn around, pick up a pen and write with your left. So it's not something that just clicks. But if for any of you guys that didn't watch it, if you go watch Alejandro Villanueva's presser with the Baltimore Ravens and his whole outlook on life, on attacking problems, on self-improvement and everything. I tweeted it out. I'm sure that some of you guys saw it. I want my kids to be like this guy, right? Like, that's how awesome I think he is. So that lowered my concern level because I know what he's made of as a person, right? So where do you stand in your concern level? For me, it's off the table. I think there'll be a learning curve, but I think it's really about commitment is the majority of the battle there. It's about the person's commitment and the want to get it done.
Yeah.
So where are you as far, and willingness to play a position? We know that now. Where are you as far as your concern level with him at right tackle?
Well, admittedly, James, I was worried at first. I mean, we talked about it on here, and I'm like, how are they counting on a guy who's played his entire career thus far at left tackle to just seamlessly go to right? And that, that's fine. We'll just put him over at right, and then no problems. I wasn't sold on it, but man, after watching that press conference, it's just his outlook is just different. I mean, he is so selfless, and you can just see he's not just talking, just to give you what you want to hear. You can see that he's coming from an honest place, and he mentioned that, when asked the question about, how this total revamp has happened on the offensive line and his take on whether they can be successful, he kind of took it as like a personal challenge. Like, just hearing the question itself made him even, want to attack this offseason more and get more familiar with the position. So while I was concerned at first, I'm not nearly as concerned after listening to that presser. I mean, I just feel like, and the reason I was concerned is, I don't know if you guys ever had, like, I had like a broken finger or something years ago. And just to avoid having to use it, I was trying to use my fork with my left hand. I couldn't pick any peas up. I mean, it was a disaster. And then I tried to use my left hand even just to eat cereal. And I was spilling the milk out the side, like just the things you take for granted, like being able to hold a spoon perfectly level and not spill milk. I couldn't do that. I was trying to, I remember the batteries on my toothbrush died, and I was trying to just brush with my left hand. I can't do it. I was like banging into the side of my gums. I was damn near choking myself with it. Like, I can't just easily switch from right to left. So I was like, man, I'm worried that this guy's not going to be able to do this. But I mean, when you talk about a guy who was a former Army Ranger, who was a captain in the Army, was a leader of men, who understands that, you have to prepare for, it's not just going in and your athleticism can take over. This guy understands the work that needs to be put in to be successful. And I'm confident that he's going to get that work done and he can pull it off. So while I was worried at first, after, all that I've heard from him, I see that he doesn't miss games. I see, his attention to detail and how much pride he's going to take into switching over to the right side. I'm very confident that he can get it done. And from what I've heard is it's easier to play the right side than it is to play the left. That's what we've always been told, that half the time, even elite level left tackles in college can't make that jump to the next level and are forced to switch to the right side to find success. So I'm confident he can get it done, even though he's never done it to this point, and he is going to be 33 when the year starts.
Yeah, certainly. I'm extremely confident as well, based on, not only just his physical gifts, but like you said, what he's made of inside is really what makes the difference. Okay,
and also, Jimmy, the offense he's playing in and the quarterback that's going to be behind him is going to make it obviously way easier. And he touched on that in his presser as well, the difference of, having 30 straight passing plays, because that's how your offense is designed. And that means Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney have all the, 12 straight plays in a drive where they can set you up for moves. They can, just keep coming outside, keep only for, the 6th, 7th play in to all of a sudden fake outside and slam inside. The difference in the mindset and the fact that he's now going to be going forward primarily rather than dropping back.
Yeah, and the other thing I'll say too is one of the things I think he brings to this line is not that the other vets don't, but a different level of accountability, right? Like he's going to hold himself accountable. He's going to hold his teammates accountable. And the guy from Minnesota, Andy Greeter, talked about the idea of rowing the boat. And I mean, that's a militaristic idea, right? You just row the boat, you do your job. But if I'm rowing and you're rowing the other way, well, we ain't going anywhere, right? So I think the accountability is going to bring to this line and some of these young guys and just the unit as a whole is also going to be really beneficial for that unit, right?
Yeah.
So that's exciting. Okay, so let's talk about then the switch of Ben Cleveland, who admittedly, he is the one that we know the least about, except his sheer size. I mean, it's going to take a while just to get around him.
Yeah.
Right. So, I am not, it's funny because before I even want to talk about my concern from him going right guard to left guard, I want to name a couple other people. Tyree Phillips, someone we've brought up, right? Who was drafted as a guard. Right now we see him as a tackle, but he was drafted as a guard. Ben Bredesen and Ben Powers. Oh my gosh, how many Bens do we have? And Ben Cleveland.
Yeah, that's a lot of Bens.
Yeah. So if you want your kid to be an offensive lineman, name him Ben. This is the real thing, is that I think that all 4 guys are going to be fighting for that spot.
Yeah.
I think that they're going to be fighting tooth and nail because how many other shots does Ben Powers get? Is he always going to be a depth guy? I know he wants to start. He had some time last year. Do you think that there's any way that Cleveland doesn't take the left guard spot?
Absolutely. I think I know we all fell in love with the highlights of him just mauling people and burying them into the ground. Obviously, the sheer size and that stuff you can't teach is just his genetics, and he's just how gigantic he is. But he's still making the leap from the SEC to the NFL, and that's a leap that has gotten the best of quite a few high level college players. And while we're optimistic,
ask Trent Richardson.
Exactly. Yeah. And while we're optimistic that he can make that leap, we don't know. Nobody knows, not even the Ravens who took him. So I think that right now, Ben Powers should feel like he's the leader in the clubhouse for that spot. And I think Tyree Phillips, while he may be forced to be our swing tackle, he might be looking at look, I'm the best left guard on this roster right now. I'm the one with the most experience. Playing time. Maybe Powers edged him. I'm not sure who ended up with the more
but it was definitely close.
Yeah, it was definitely close. And so I would assume that he's actually I'm not so sure if he's going to be practicing with the ones day one of training camp. I'm not sure, if he's earned that spot yet. Because coaches have to, we remember, I know he's a recent draft pick, but Bredesen's a recent draft pick. Powers, they're a little bit less recent, but still recent.
Yeah. And I was going to say, if I'm not mistaken, Bredesen, he's the only one of the 4 that's his natural position, if you will.
Right. Where he played that in college. Yeah.
Right. And so, he's probably the least physically gifted as far as sheer size and length and things like that. But he showed it in college and it's going to be really interesting because all four of these guys really have the same profile. They're mid-level picks that we see as potential starters. And they all have, think about it. Like you said, Ben is so big, Ben Cleveland, but Ben Bredeson is intelligent. Brent Powers has shown he can win in the run game and has not done well in the passing game. Tyree, probably the opposite. I'm not sure, but probably the opposite. But Tyree has had flashes, but none of them, of course, have put it together long enough to be starters, right? Like John calls it. It's going to be really interesting, man. I'm telling you what, I think Ben Bredeson is a real dark horse. Maybe it's because I liked him coming out of the draft and I want to be right. But I also think just having the intelligence and being in your natural position can take you a long way. And
I think what really you're highlighting too is the depth at the position.
It's incredible.
Really, the interior has got such depth. I mean, we're not in love with Makari, but you talk about a guy who can play a bunch of positions in the interior, and as well as he played tackle when he was in college. So, and then we forget about Colon Castillo and what he might be able to bring to that room at the center position. So in the interior, lots and lots of depth there, and guys that have played big time snaps at one point or another. So even if there were, and the competition, the coach always talks about competition is what drives us all, and iron sharpens iron. So if you guys are competing, you're all pushing each other and you're all getting better as a group. So if one were to go down, if Ben Cleveland does hit a rookie wall at some point, if he wins the battle, then, it's not a huge steep drop off of who's coming in after him. So I do think, but to me, if Bozeman does make the transition to center, I'm most worried about the ceiling of the left guard position. Cause I'm most worried about left tackle. Cause if Ronnie's not ready to go, then that just causes a bunch of other moves after that could cause issues. But if at their ceiling, Ronnie's the best tackle in football. Yeah. And at their ceiling, we don't really know what the ceiling is for our left guard right now.
Yeah, for
no matter who it is. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless it's Bradley. And then we know we got a pretty good one. But we're hopeful that he's going to move to center because we don't want to see Makari. And we might see Colon Castillo and go, wow, this guy is the real deal.
Right.
But we just don't know yet. What did he play? We had one start last year, or was it one or two?
Something like I feel like it was one, maybe two. But either, I mean, he played well, like you said, but it's different between one game. You come in, your adrenaline's pumping, you go out there, you execute, between a 16 game or 17, I guess now, 17 game grind, right? So yeah, it's really interesting, and that kind of transitions us into our next point. But before we get into our next point here, which is the transition of Bozeman to center, we already been kind of talking about it. Like I said, I wouldn't. A lot of people are just penciling or penning Ben Cleveland in. I would pencil him in because we don't really know. Like Glenn said, that's still a jump. We don't really know who it's going to be. But one thing we do know, and it's a great point, absolutely there will be an open competition. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind. They're not saying, here's the keys, you're the left guard. They're not doing that. The Ravens don't do that. Jonathan Ogden, for goodness gracious, had to play guard for a period of time his rookie season. So no one is being handed anything. While he has physical gifts, he is also the least experienced on the Baltimore Ravens. So it's definitely going to be interesting. But yeah, let's talk about the center position now. Is your betting? I mean, my betting money is that Bozeman has been slotted in at center. I don't see them unless Colon just tears it up, right? I mean, just absolutely tears it up. My money is that Bozeman becomes the center from here moving forward. What else other than Colon Castillo could you see, stopping that from happening?
Well, the only thing is if Bozeman doesn't perform well in practice, if he's having issues.
True. I didn't even consider that.
Yeah, I mean, if he's having issues snapping the ball or whatever the case may be, maybe he's not firing his hands up quick enough after the snap. Who knows? Maybe he's having issues making the calls. I'm not sure who's going to be tasked with that. Maybe Zeitler can help with that. But I think that he's definitely the leader right now. And the fact that in years past, when they brought up Bozeman to the coaches or EDC, they would basically say, well, right now he's playing left guard and we like the competition at center. Da, da, da. Now they're actually saying he's in conversation at both. So to me, the fact that they're even saying that tells me that he's going to get a really good crack at it. And anything we've seen from him in the past tells me that, he's going to be just fine going there. But we still haven't seen it in the pros. But I mean, to me, he was a good guard. So he's All-American center. To me, the transition shouldn't be that difficult, but I guess it's still a wait and see on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with the offensive line. And I was hoping to sneak that point in there, but you brought it up. The depth is, I think, we talk about size, talk about durability. The other thing I think it's important to know is that we have a nice range of young guys on their first contract to potentially a rookie to some vets on the line, right? So I think we have a nice age and mix of youth and experience there. So all those things bode in our favor. Our concern, of course, are the few position switches. But the other thing you talked about it before is that just the depth on this line, I think is also encouraging. So let me put a bow on it this way, Glenn. How do you see this line performing? Are you more confident that it's going to be better this coming year than last year?
Well, I guess it comes down to a lot of factors, but if the only way we can make this prediction is by predicting the 5 guys we talked about actually starting, and then we can talk about the swing guys. So to me, this is the way I look at it. At their best, Ronnie Stanley is better than Orlando Brown Jr. at left tackle, in my opinion. He's the best. He was the All-Pro left tackle for a reason. And
anybody that's objective's opinion too, right?
Yeah, exactly. But in my opinion, Ronnie Stanley, the best left tackle when he's healthy in this offense in front of Lamar Jackson. So he's better than Orlando Brown Jr., in my opinion. At left guard, we're not so sure there. We're not so sure because Bozeman's probably better than whoever, at least at this point in their career, maybe not in their ceiling, but right now, Bozeman's probably better than anyone else we're going to be putting at left guard. Mm-hmm. So we have one up and we have one down so far. At the center position, if Bozeman transitions seamlessly, he's going to be better than whoever we had in there at center. So boom, we got 2 up, we got 1 down. Zeitler, far better than Powers, far better than Phillips, far better than Fluker at right guard. That's a big up right there. And then the other one is now, starting the year, I'd say Orlando Brown. If you want to tell me Orlando Brown's better than Villanueva, that's fine. I'll give you that. But as far as how the season ended up, we didn't have him there. We had Fluker and we had Phillips at right tackle. And to me, even sight unseen, Villanueva is going to be better than both of those guys. So right now, I look at it as we have 4 upgrades and 1 potential downgrade, and that's Bozeman at left guard. That's the only potential downgrade is if Cleveland takes over and he isn't, an immediate success, or if Powers is forced to go over there. We know what we got from him at right guard, and he's not going to be better than Bozeman was at left if that's how he plays left. So, I think that overall we should be in sight for a better offensive line, unless the left guard position is a total dumpster fire. But at worst, it's the right guard that we had last year playing there, and he's going to be in there, and that's Powers. That's at worst. That's if Cleveland blows up and can't get it done, maybe gets an injury, and Bredesen's a non-factor, and Phillips proves that he's going to have to be used as the swing tackle, and we can't put him in at left guard, then we have Powers in there. So that's not really a downgrade because we had him in at right guard. I mean, it's not an upgrade, but it's not really that big of a downgrade there. So to me, I think the offensive line will be better. Obviously, if Stanley's healthy, that's a big plus. And I'm confident that Villanueva can make the change. And just quickly, I wanted to look up Bozeman and what he did at center. He graded out very, very highly at center at Alabama. He had an 80 grade in 2016, a 77 in 2017. He played over 1,000 snaps in 16 at the center position, and over 850 in 2017. So this is a guy who has got incredible experience, albeit at the collegiate level, but at the highest, at the biggest program in college at that level. So I'm confident right now that the line will be better than it was, but a lot of it, comes down to health, comes down to, there's a lot of factors right now, but right now I'd have to say it's a better offensive line than last year at how it ended.
Nice. Well, I'm going to take it a step further, Glenn. All right. Not only is this offensive line going to be better than last year, not only is this offensive line going to be better than 2019, the Baltimore Ravens offensive line this year will be the best offensive line in the NFL in any counting number, any statistic, anything that you can find based on their size, the mix of experience, the strength. the versatility of the line, and the depth of the line, we will have the best offensive line in the NFL this year. You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. The best.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay. Well, man, that's a big statement, Jimbo, because let me tell you why. If you would have said better, I don't even mind your statement when you said that they're going to have the best line this year. I mean, you're optimistic. You're a fan. But the fact that you said it's going to be better than 2019
I know.
is where I might have to put the brakes on you, because you're talking about all-pro left tackle. Yonda was still at right guard, and he had an 86.6 grade, absolutely mauling people. Orlando Brown was the Pro Bowl right tackle. At center was Skura, who had his best year that year, and then Bozeman at left guard. I don't know if it can be, because I think that was the best offensive line in football in 19, in my opinion, and I think the opinion of most people would agree with me. So to say it's better than them, Jimbo, is a big ask from them to have the best left tackle in football, the best right guard in football, one of the very best right tackles, and a heck of a darn good left guard, and really a center who performed his best of his career at that position.
It's going to happen. You heard it here. I'm not stepping off of it. I'm not. I'm excited for it. Let us know what you guys think. We just spent 30 minutes talking about the offensive line. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it as much as we did.
Yeah.
Give us all your thoughts and comments below, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
See you.